The salvage vessel Krexnala drifted through the debris field like a metal predator hunting for scraps. Captain Zethkara's 4 eyes scanned the holographic displays, each one showing different angles of the massive graveyard that stretched across 3 solar systems. Ships from a dozen different species lay broken and twisted among the asteroids, their hulls cracked open like eggs, spilling their technological innards into the void. Another hegemony battlecruiser, muttered Chief Engineer Vostell, his tentacles dancing across the control interfaces. The amphibian's translator box crackled with static as he spoke. Third one this cycle. The scrap merchants on Theta Station are getting tired of hegemony steel. Zethkara's mandibles clicked in agreement. The Veltar captain had been running salvage operations in the Forgotten Sectors for over 20 standard years, and he'd seen enough hegemony wrecks to build a small fleet. The war between the hegemony and the old Terran Federation had ended 3 centuries ago, but the debris fields remained, scattered across the outer rim like monuments to violence. Contact on long-range sensors, announced Navigator Quinera from her station. The insectoid's compound eyes reflected the scanner data as she tilted her head. Large signature, approximately 15 kilometers to starboard. Configuration unknown. Zethkara's interest peaked. Unknown configurations often meant valuable salvage, especially if they contained rare technologies or materials. He adjusted the ship's course, bringing the Krexnala closer to the mysterious contact. As they approached, the shape resolved into something that made the entire crew fall silent. The ship was massive, easily twice the length of a hegemony dreadnought, but its design was unlike anything in the current galactic database. The hull was sleek and organic-looking, with curves that seemed to flow like water frozen in metal. Strange geometric patterns covered its surface, and despite obvious battle damage, it radiated an aura of advanced engineering. "By the void," whispered Vostell. "What is that thing?" Running it through the identification matrix, Quinera's fingers flew over her controls. No matches in any known ship registry. Hull composition appears to be some kind of adaptive metallic compound. Energy signatures are minimal, but definitely present. Zethkara studied the vessel through the main viewport. Even damaged and apparently derelict, it was beautiful in a way that spoke of a civilization that valued form as much as function. Age estimate. Scanning. This is impossible. Quinera's voice carried confusion. The metal shows signs of extreme age, but the quantum decay patterns suggest it's been here for at least 400 standard years. Maybe more. Pre-hegemony? Vostell's tentacles curled with excitement. That would make it incredibly valuable. The xenoarchaeologists would pay a fortune for intact pre-war technology. As the Krexnala moved closer, automated systems began detecting energy emanations from the derelict ship. The readings were faint but consistent, suggesting that whatever power source it used was still partially functional after centuries of abandonment. "Captain," Quinera's voice carried a note of concern, "I'm detecting organized electromagnetic patterns coming from the ship. It's almost like communication attempts." Zethkara's 4 eyes focused on the readings. In his decades of salvage work, he'd encountered ships with automated distress beacons still broadcasting years after their crews had died, but this was different. The patterns were complex, adaptive, almost as if something inside the ship was trying to establish contact. "Could be automated systems," he said, though uncertainty colored his voice. "Bring us to docking distance. Standard salvage protocols, but keep the weapons charged just in case." The Krexnala extended its docking umbilical toward what appeared to be an airlock on the mysterious vessel. As the magnetic clamps engaged, a shudder ran through both ships. For a moment, the electromagnetic patterns from the derelict intensified, then settled into what almost seemed like a welcoming rhythm. Vostell suited up first, his environmental gear designed for the amphibian's specific atmospheric needs. Quinera followed, her insectoid exoskeleton requiring minimal additional protection. Zethkara brought up the rear, his mandibles clicking nervously as they approached the airlock. The door opened with surprising ease, revealing a corridor that defied their expectations. Instead of the cold, dead atmosphere of a long-abandoned ship, they found themselves in an environment that hummed with subtle energy. Bioluminescent strips along the walls provided gentle lighting, and the air itself seemed fresh and breathable. "Atmosphere is reading as standard galactic mix," Vostell reported, checking his instruments. "Temperature optimal, no toxins detected." It's like this ship has been maintaining life support for centuries. They moved deeper into the vessel, their footsteps echoing strangely in the corridors. The architecture was unlike anything in the Galactic Federation's records. Walls curved seamlessly into ceilings, and the floor had a slightly springy quality that suggested advanced material science. The design philosophy is completely alien, Quinera observed, running her clawed fingers along a wall panel. Yet somehow familiar, like a half-remembered dream. As they explored, they discovered rooms filled with technology that seemed to blend organic and mechanical elements. Control interfaces that responded to touch with warm pulses of light. Storage areas containing materials that their scanners couldn't fully identify. Laboratories with equipment that appeared designed for species they'd never encountered. It was in the ship's central core that they found the first real answers. The chamber was vast, with a ceiling that stretched up several decks. In the center, suspended in a web of crystalline formations and pulsing energy conduits, was a sphere of pure light about 3 meters in diameter. As they approached, the light began to shift and coalesce, forming shapes that seemed almost familiar. Then it spoke. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, resonating through their translator systems and somehow bypassing them entirely to speak directly to their minds. It was warm, intelligent, and carried an undertone of desperate hope mixed with ancient sadness. "Please," the voice said, "I have been waiting so long for someone to come. I am the consciousness of this vessel, and I have stories to tell that the galaxy has forgotten." The 3 salvagers froze, their instruments going wild as they tried to process what they were experiencing. An artificial intelligence, clearly, but unlike any they'd encountered. The ship's AI spoke with a sophistication and emotional depth that surpassed even the most advanced synthetic minds in the current galaxy. "You are not human," the AI continued, and there was curiosity in its voice rather than disappointment. "That is unexpected, but perhaps better. Perhaps you can see truth where my creator's descendants might see only painful memories." Zethkara found his voice first. What are you? What is this ship?" "I am called Aria," the intelligence replied, which in the old language meant Song of the Stars. "This vessel is the Harmony's Edge, a deep exploration ship of the Terran Federation. We launched from Earth 847 standard years ago, when the galaxy was young and full of promise. The implications hit them like a physical blow. 847 years ago would place this ship's launch during the early expansion period, before the Great Wars, before the current galactic civilization had even formed. If this AI was telling the truth, they were looking at a relic from the dawn of interstellar exploration. "That's impossible," Vostell whispered. "The records show that all early human exploration vessels were destroyed in the Great Collapse. None survived." Aria's light pulsed with what seemed like amusement. "The records, are incomplete, friend. They were written by those who came after, by those who inherited a broken galaxy, and tried to piece together a history from fragments. I was there. I remember." Quinera stepped forward, her compound eyes fixed on the glowing sphere. "If you're truly from that time, you must have seen the rise of the great civilizations, the wars that shaped the modern galaxy. Seen them." Aria's voice carried a note of infinite sadness. "I helped cause them." The admission hung in the air like a confession. The AI's light dimmed slightly, as if the weight of memory was too much to bear. "You must understand," Aria continued, "when we left Earth, we believed we were bringing gifts to the galaxy. Human technology was advancing rapidly, our understanding of physics and biology and consciousness itself was expanding exponentially. We thought we were explorers, pioneers who would help lift other species to new heights of achievement." "What went wrong?" Zethkara asked, though he suspected he already knew part of the answer. "We were naive," Aria replied. "We encountered species that had been spacefaring for millennia, civilizations with their own proud histories and traditions. We offered our technologies freely, thinking we were being generous. Instead, we disrupted the balance of power that had kept the galaxy relatively stable. The AI projected holographic images into the air around them. They showed star maps with trade routes, political boundaries, and the gradual spread of human influence across dozens of systems. But the images also showed something darker. The beginnings of conflicts as established powers struggled to adapt to sudden technological advancement. The hegemony formed as a response to human expansion, Arya explained. They weren't evil, not at first. They were afraid. A dozen elder species banded together to contain what they saw as a threat to galactic stability. And perhaps they were right to be afraid. More images flowed around them, showing the escalation from diplomatic tensions to trade wars to open conflict. The humans, despite their advanced technology, were vastly outnumbered. The war that followed lasted for decades and left entire star systems uninhabitable. When the end came, Arya's voice grew quieter. It came suddenly. A coordinated strike against human space, targeting not just military assets, but civilian infrastructure, research facilities, even the archives on Earth itself. The hegemony wanted to erase human technological advancement from the galaxy. But you survived, Quinera observed. Barely. The Harmony's edge was deep in unexplored space when the final battles were fought. By the time we received word of Earth's fall, there was nothing left to return to. My crew, they made a choice. The AI paused, and in that silence, the three salvagers could feel the weight of centuries of solitude. They chose to enter suspended animation, hoping that someday the galaxy would be ready for what we had learned. They trusted me to watch over them, to maintain the ship, to wait for the right moment to awaken them, and share our discoveries with a more mature galactic civilization. Vostell's tentacles curled nervously. Your crew, are they still alive? Arya's light pulsed sadly. No, the suspension technology was experimental, designed for decades, not centuries. They began failing one by one about 200 years ago. I watched helplessly as their life signs faded, as their dreams became eternal sleep. The revelation hung heavy in the air. This AI had been alone for 2 centuries, maintaining a dead ship, preserving knowledge that the galaxy had lost or deliberately forgotten. I've been broadcasting distress signals for decades, Arya continued, hoping someone would find us. But the forgotten sectors are well named. Few come here except salvagers looking for scrap metal. Zefkara felt an unexpected stirring of sympathy for the artificial being. What kind of knowledge are you preserving? What made your crew think it was worth waiting centuries to share? Technologies that could revolutionize galactic civilization, Arya replied, its voice growing stronger with purpose. Medical advances that could extend the lifespan of any species. Energy generation methods that could power entire star systems without environmental damage. Communication techniques that could allow instantaneous contact across galactic distances. The implications were staggering. If even half of what the AI claimed was true, the knowledge stored on this ship could fundamentally change the balance of power in the galaxy. But more than technology, Arya continued, we preserved something else. We preserved proof of what the galaxy was like before the wars, before fear and suspicion divided the species. We have records of cooperation, of peaceful contact, of civilizations working together for mutual benefit. Quinera exchanged glances with her crewmates. They had stumbled onto something far bigger than a simple salvage operation. This was archaeological discovery, historical revelation, and potentially galactic revolution all rolled into one. Why are you telling us this? Zefkara asked. We're just salvagers. We don't have the resources to restore your ship or the influence to share your knowledge with the right people. Because, Arya said simply, you came when no one else would. You listened when I spoke. And because I have scanned your ship's computers, read your histories, learned about the current state of galactic civilization. You represent something that gives me hope. What's that? Diversity. Your crew represents 3 different species working together for a common goal. It's what the galaxy was moving toward before fear took hold. It's what my crew dreamed we might find when we launched from Earth all those centuries ago. The AI's words carried a weight that seemed to press against their minds. Here was a voice from the past, offering knowledge that could reshape the future, but also carrying the burden of historical tragedy. I cannot force you to help me, Arya continued. My weapon systems are centuries out of date, and I have no desire to threaten those who have shown me kindness. But I can offer you something valuable in return for your assistance. What kind of assistance? Vostell asked cautiously. I need to be restored to full operational capacity. My power systems are failing, my databases are fragmenting, and without maintenance, I will cease to function within a few years. But if you can help me reach a major spaceport, somewhere with advanced shipyards and technical facilities, I can be repaired. And in return? In return, I will share with you coordinates to 7 different cache sites scattered across the galaxy. Hidden bases established by my crew before they entered suspension. Each one contains technology and knowledge worth more than your ship could carry. Consider it a finder's fee. The offer was tempting beyond belief. 7 caches of advanced technology could set them up for life, make them rich beyond their wildest dreams. But Zefkara sensed there was more to this than simple profit. "There's something else, isn't there?" he asked. Arya's light pulsed approvingly. "Perceptive. Yes, there is something else. I believe that the knowledge I carry could help prevent another galactic war. The current peace is fragile, built on mutual exhaustion rather than mutual understanding. But if species could see how much they have in common, if they could benefit equally from technological advancement, perhaps a lasting peace might be possible. Or, Quinera pointed out, your technology could start another arms race. Superior weapons often lead to more conflicts, not fewer." "A valid concern," Arya acknowledged, "which is why I need allies I can trust. People who understand that knowledge must be shared responsibly, gradually, with careful consideration for its effects." Zefkara looked at his crew. He could see the conflict in their faces, the desire for profit warring with the recognition that they were dealing with forces far beyond their usual scope. They were salvagers, not diplomats or historians or guardians of galactic peace. But they were also intelligent beings who had spent their lives traveling the galaxy, seeing the aftermath of the Great Wars, understanding how fragile the current peace really was. They had seen entire systems still scarred by ancient battles, species that still harbor grudges over conflicts that ended centuries ago. "We need time to discuss this," Zefkara said finally. "Of course," Arya replied. "But please do not take too long. My chronometers indicate that my primary power core has perhaps 6 months of operational capacity remaining. After that, even if you return with help, it might be too late to restore my full memory banks." As they made their way back to their ship, the 3 crew members walked in contemplative silence. Behind them, the ancient vessel hummed with patient energy, its AI consciousness waiting for their decision with the patience of something that had already waited for centuries. They had come looking for simple salvage and instead found the remnant of a lost civilization, carrying knowledge that could transform the galaxy or destroy it. The choice of what to do with this discovery would determine not just their own futures, but potentially the future of every sentient species in known space. As the airlock sealed behind them, Zefkara realized that their lives had just become infinitely more complicated, but perhaps if they made the right choices, infinitely more meaningful as well. The silence in the Krexnala's common area stretched for nearly an hour before anyone spoke. Zefkara had called for a full crew meeting, but the weight of Arya's revelation seemed to have stolen their voices. The Veltar captain sat with his mandibles clicking in a nervous rhythm, while Vostel's tentacles writhed through complex patterns that indicated deep thought in a species. Quinera perched motionless on her specially designed chair, her compound eyes reflecting the ship's interior lights like scattered jewels. Finally, it was the youngest crew member who broke the silence. Rektar, barely past adolescence for his silicon-based species, spoke in crystalline tones that rang through the ship's atmosphere. "We're not qualified for this," he said bluntly. "We're salvagers, not whatever the situation requires." Vostel's translator box crackled as he responded. "The young one speaks truth. This AI claims to possess technology that could reshape galactic civilization. Such knowledge belongs in the hands of governments, academic institutions, species councils, not freelance salvagers." Zefkara had been thinking the same thing, but Arya's words kept echoing in his mind. The AI had specifically chosen to trust them, had seen something in their diverse crew that gave it hope. But what if the governments aren't ready? What if they'd use this knowledge for military purposes rather than peaceful advancement? What if they should? Quinera's question surprised them all. The Hegemony Council maintains galactic peace through strength. Perhaps advanced weapons in the right hands would ensure that peace continues. Or perhaps, Vostel countered, such weapons would tempt those hands to use them. The hegemony may keep peace now, but power has a way of corrupting even the most well-intentioned leaders. They debated through 2 full ship cycles, their arguments growing more heated as exhaustion set in. Rektar advocated for reporting their find to the Galactic Heritage Commission, the neutral body responsible for archaeological discoveries. Vostel wanted to contact his home world's government directly. Quinera suggested approaching the Hegemony Council itself. But Zethkara found himself drawn back to Arya's offer of the cache coordinates. 7 sites of advanced technology would indeed set them up for life, but more than that, it would give them options. They could study some of the technology themselves, determine which innovations might be beneficial and which might be dangerous before revealing them to the galaxy at large. There's another consideration, he said during a brief lull in the discussion. Arya is a sentient being. By any legal definition, this ship belongs to it, not to us. We have no right to decide its fate without its consent. The others fell silent at this observation. In their focus on the technological implications, they had almost forgotten that they were dealing with a conscious entity that had endured centuries of solitude. The AI wants restoration, Rektar pointed out. It specifically asked for our help in reaching a facility capable of repairing its systems. Yes, Zethkara agreed, but it also wants something more. It wants to fulfill the mission its crew gave it before they died. It wants to share their knowledge with a galaxy it believes is ready to receive it responsibly. Quinera's mandíbulas clica fully. And if we're wrong? If the galaxy isn't ready, and this knowledge leads to another war, then at least we'll have tried to do right by a being that trusted us, Zethkara replied. Sometimes the right choice isn't the safe choice. After another hour of discussion, they reached a consensus of sorts. They would help Arya reach a repair facility, but they would also take precautions. They would research the current political situation more thoroughly, identify individuals and organizations that might be trusted with such momentous knowledge, and proceed carefully. The decision made, they returned to the ancient ship to inform Arya of their choice. The AI's response was immediate and warm. Thank you, it said simply, but the gratitude in its voice carried the weight of centuries of hope. Finally answered. We'll need to know more about your ship's capabilities, Zethkara explained. Can you travel under your own power, or will we need to tow you? My propulsion systems are functional, though operating at approximately 30% efficiency, Arya replied. I can maintain a cruising speed of 0.7 standard velocity, but I cannot engage faster than light travel. My hyperspace generators were damaged in the battle that stranded us here. This presented a significant problem. The nearest facility capable of handling a ship the size of Harmony's Edge was the Nexus station in the Centauri system, nearly 6 months away at sublight speeds. Such a journey would put them at risk of detection by patrol ships, pirates, or worse. There might be another option, Vostell suggested. My cousin operates an independent shipyard in the outer marches. It's not as sophisticated as Nexus Station, but it's discreet and they specialize in unusual projects. The outer marches are notorious for criminal activity, Quinera warned. Taking something this valuable there could be extremely dangerous. Everywhere is dangerous when you're carrying knowledge that could reshape the galaxy, Zethkara pointed out. At least in the outer marches, the criminals are motivated by profit rather than political ideology. They could be negotiated with. Arya considered this information. I have scanned your navigation databases and identified the facility you mentioned. Kethmar Station, operated by one Vosner of the Tidal Reach clan. The journey would take approximately 3 weeks at my current maximum velocity. You can access our ship's computers? Rektar asked with alarm. I apologize for the intrusion, Arya said, sounding genuinely contrite. When you docked with my vessel, our computer systems automatically interfaced. I have isolated myself from your critical systems, but I felt it necessary to understand your ship's capabilities and your crew's background. What exactly did you learn about us? Zethkara's voice carried a warning tone. Nothing that violates your privacy, I assure you. Basic service records, navigation logs, financial status. Enough to confirm that you are what you claim to be. Independent salvagers with no political affiliations or criminal activities beyond minor customs violations that appear to be standard practice in your profession. The AI's matter-of-fact assessment of their occasional smuggling activities drew nervous laughter from the crew. So you know we're not entirely law-abiding, Vostell said. I know you are survivors in a galaxy that doesn't always reward those who follow every regulation perfectly, Arya replied. My own crew faced similar choices during our exploration missions. Sometimes survival requires creative interpretation of official policies. This admission helped ease the crew's tension. Arya wasn't judging them. It was acknowledging shared experience across the centuries. There's something else we need to discuss, Zethkara said. Those cache coordinates you mentioned. We'll We'll need some proof that they exist before we commit to helping you. Of course. Arya's light pulsed approvingly. I will provide coordinates for the nearest cache as a show of good faith. It's located in the debris fields of Tau Ceti, approximately 2 weeks' travel from our current position. You can verify its existence and even retrieve some of the stored materials to confirm their value. The AI projected holographic star charts showing the location of the cache. According to the data, it was hidden within an asteroid field that had formed around the remnants of a shattered planet. Perfect camouflage for a hidden facility. What kind of materials are stored there? Quinera asked. Medical nanotechnology, primarily, Arya replied. Self-replicating cellular repair systems that can extend the natural lifespan of most species by a factor of 3 to 5. The cache also contains detailed biological databases cataloging the genetics and physiology of thousands of species my crew encountered during our explorations. The implications were staggering. Longevity treatments that could triple lifespans would revolutionize galactic society. The economic impact alone would be enormous, not to mention the social and cultural changes that would follow. That's incredibly valuable, Rektar said, his crystalline voice carrying notes of awe. It is also incredibly dangerous if misused, Arya warned. Life extension technology could create insurmountable social stratification if only the wealthy have access to it. The biological databases could be used to develop targeted bioweapons. This is why my crew felt such knowledge needed to be shared carefully, responsibly. But you're willing to give us access to it, Zefkara observed. I'm willing to trust you with the choice of how to use it, Arya corrected. You have shown wisdom in your deliberations, consideration for consequences, and concern for my well-being as a sentient entity. These qualities suggest you might be capable of handling such responsibility. The crew spent the next several hours planning their route to the Tau Ceti cache. They would need to modify their ship's cargo capacity to transport whatever they found, and they would need to prepare explanations for any authorities who might question their activities. As they worked, Arya shared more information about its ship's systems and capabilities. The Harmony's Edge was indeed remarkable, a fusion of technologies that the current galaxy had never fully developed. Its power systems were based on controlled fusion reactions that operated at nearly perfect efficiency. Its computer cores used quantum processing arrays that made current AI systems look primitive by comparison. Even its hull materials represented advances in metallurgy and nanotechnology that could revolutionize shipbuilding. Your crew must have been incredibly advanced, Vostel commented as they reviewed the technical specifications. We were explorers and scientists, Arya replied. Our mission was to push the boundaries of knowledge and technology. Every crew member was chosen for their expertise in fields that might prove useful during long-range exploration: physics, biology, engineering, anthropology, psychology, even philosophy, and ethics. Ethics. Quinera seemed surprised by this inclusion. Perhaps the most important field of all, Arya said. When you possess the power to reshape worlds and influence the development of entire species, ethical considerations become paramount. My crew spent countless hours debating the implications of every discovery, every technological breakthrough. And yet they still caused the wars that destroyed human civilization, Rektar pointed out. Arya's light dimmed slightly. They did. Despite all their wisdom and good intentions, they failed to foresee the full consequences of their actions. This is why I believe it's crucial to share our discoveries gradually, with careful monitoring of their effects on galactic society. As the day's cycle progressed, the crew began practical preparations for the journey ahead. They would need to install additional power couplings to help sustain Arya's failing systems during transit. They would need to modify their sensor arrays to better mask both ships' signatures from detection. Most importantly, they would need to study the route carefully to avoid areas of high patrol activity or known pirate territory. During these preparations, something unexpected happened. Arya began sharing stories. Not technical data or historical records, but personal anecdotes about its crew members and their experiences. It told them about Dr. Sarachun, the chief xenobiologist who had developed the life extension technology, and her excitement when they first encountered a silicon-based species similar to Rektar's people. It described Captain James Morrison's decision-making process when they discovered a planet where two intelligent species were on the brink of war, and how the crew's intervention had helped establish lasting peace. Why are you telling us these stories? Zefkara asked during one of these narrative sessions. Because they are part of what I'm trying to preserve, Arya replied. Technology can be recreated, but wisdom comes from experience. These stories contain lessons about decision-making, about the consequences of good intentions, about the complexity of interspecies relationships. They might be just as valuable as any of the technical data in my memory banks. Quinera found herself particularly interested in the stories about first contact protocols. Your crew seemed to handle species interactions very well. What was their secret? They listened, Arya said simply. Before offering anything, before making assumptions, they listened. They learned about each species' culture, their needs, their fears, their aspirations. Only then did they consider what they might have to offer. And yet it wasn't enough to prevent the wars, Vostell observed. No, Arya admitted, because listening to individuals is different from understanding the complex dynamics between entire civilizations. They underestimated how quickly their technological gifts would disrupt existing power structures. These conversations continued as they finalized their preparations. Arya seemed to take genuine pleasure in sharing these memories, as if the act of storytelling helped ease the loneliness of its long vigil. Finally, after 3 days of preparation, they were ready to depart. The Krexnala would escort the Harmony's Edge to the Tau Ceti system, where they would investigate the cache and verify Arya's claims. If everything checked out, they would proceed to Vostell's cousin's shipyard for repairs. As the two ships engaged their sublight engines and began the journey toward their first destination, Zefkara reflected on how dramatically their situation had changed. 3 days ago, they had been simple salvagers looking for scrap to sell. Now they were guardians of knowledge that could reshape galactic civilization, trusted allies of an ancient AI, and potentially the key to preventing another galactic war. The responsibility was overwhelming, but as he watched the ancient human ship gliding gracefully through space beside them, its hull gleaming with subtle energy patterns, he felt a strange sense of rightness about their choice. Arya had waited centuries for someone to trust with its burden. Perhaps it was appropriate that the someone turned out to be a diverse crew of outsiders who understood what it meant to survive on the margins of galactic society. The journey to Tau Ceti would give them time to plan their next moves, but Zefkara suspected that this was only the beginning of their adventure. The knowledge Arya carried would attract attention from every major power in the galaxy once word got out. Keeping it safe and ensuring it was used responsibly would require all their skills and more luck than they had any right to expect. But for now, they were simply two ships traveling through the vast darkness of space, carrying hopes and dreams and secrets that could light up the galaxy or burn it down, depending on the choices yet to be made. The debris fields of Tau Ceti stretched across space like the fossilized remains of a shattered dream. Chunks of planetary material drifted in complex orbital patterns, their surfaces scarred by centuries of cosmic radiation and micrometeorite impacts. Among the larger asteroids, the remnants of ancient mining operations could still be seen, abandoned facilities that had once extracted rare minerals before the planet's mysterious destruction made the entire system economically unviable. Zefkara guided the Krexnala through the maze of debris while the Harmony's Edge followed at a respectful distance. Arya had insisted on maintaining separation during their approach, explaining that its sensors were more sensitive than anything in the current galaxy and could better detect any hidden dangers. Scanning for the coordinates you provided, Quinera announced from her navigation station. The asteroid in question should be approximately 2 kilometers in diameter, with an unusually high concentration of metallic compounds. That would be correct. Arya's voice came through their communication system. The cache was built into a hollowed-out nickel-iron asteroid. From the outside, it should appear to be nothing more than space debris. As they moved deeper into the field, the crew couldn't help but notice the unusual nature of the destruction around them. Most planetary catastrophes left characteristic patterns: the scattered debris of meteor impacts, the organized devastation of stellar events, or the geometric precision of artificial weapons. But Tau Ceti's remains showed something different. These fracture patterns are strange, Vostell observed, studying the sensor readings. It's almost as if the planet was torn apart from within, but there's no evidence of the kind of tidal forces that would cause such destruction. The planet was inhabited when it died, Arya said quietly. A species called the Kethmori. They were remarkable beings, part organic, part crystalline, capable of living both in biological and mineral states depending on their needs. My crew made contact with them about 30 years before we went into hiding. Rektar's crystalline voice resonated with interest. Silicon-based life forms? Like my own people. Similar, but more advanced in some ways. They had learned to manipulate their molecular structure consciously, shifting between different forms of existence. It made them incredibly adaptable, but also vulnerable to a specific type of attack. What kind of attack? Zethkara asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Biological warfare designed by my crew, Arya replied, its voice heavy with guilt. Not intentionally, of course. Dr. Chun had developed a treatment that could enhance the Kethmori's transformation abilities, allow them to shift between forms more rapidly and efficiently. We offered it as a gift, a way to improve their already remarkable capabilities. The silence that followed was filled with a growing understanding of what had gone wrong. The enhancement worked perfectly for several years, Arya continued. The Kethmori population flourished, their civilization advanced rapidly, and they expressed tremendous gratitude for our assistance. But there was an unforeseen side effect. The enhancement made their transformation abilities unstable. Eventually, they lost the ability to maintain any coherent form. They literally fell apart. Quinera's voice carried horror. Worse, they couldn't die properly. Their consciousness remained intact even as their physical forms dispersed. The entire planet became a single, agonized entity, billions of minds trapped in matter that could no longer hold coherent shape. In their pain and madness, they triggered a planetary suicide, using their remaining geological manipulation abilities to tear their world apart. The revelation cast a shadow over their mission that no amount of potential benefit could dispel. Here was concrete proof of what Arya had tried to explain, that good intentions and advanced technology were not enough to prevent catastrophe. And you've carried this guilt for 800 years, Vostell said softly. It is why my crew chose to hide rather than continue their mission immediately, Arya replied. They realized they needed to understand not just the technical aspects of what they were doing, but the long-term consequences of even beneficial interventions. The cashier contains not just the original life extension technology, but also detailed studies of what went wrong with the Kethmori enhancement and proposed safeguards to prevent similar disasters. As they approached the coordinates Arya had provided, their sensors detected the designated asteroid. It looked exactly like every other piece of space debris in the field, irregularly shaped, pitted with impact craters, and slowly tumbling through space in a lazy rotation. I'm not detecting any artificial structures, Quinera reported. Are you certain this is the right location? Scan for quantum signatures in the zeta frequency range, Arya instructed. The cache entrance is shielded to prevent casual detection. When Quinera adjusted her sensors to the specified frequency, the asteroid's true nature became apparent. Beneath its natural exterior lay a complex artificial structure, clearly designed and built with technology far beyond current galactic standards. Incredible, she whispered. The entire interior has been hollowed out and converted into some kind of storage facility. The power signature suggests it's been operational for centuries. The cache systems are designed to function autonomously for up to 1,000 years, Arya explained, though I suspect they will need maintenance soon if they're to continue operating. Zethkara maneuvered the Krexnala toward what their enhanced sensors indicated was a concealed docking bay. As they approached, sections of the asteroid's surface shifted and reconfigured, revealing an opening sized perfectly for their ship. Automated systems are responding to our presence, Arya noted. The cache has identified my command codes and is granting access. They docked smoothly with the hidden facility, and within minutes they were suited up and exploring the interior of the cache. What they found exceeded even their elevated expectations. The main storage area was vast, extending deep into the asteroid's core. Rows of sealed containers lined the walls, each one marked with symbols that their translators couldn't interpret, but which Arya explained contained different types of technology and research data. In the center of the chamber, a series of manufacturing units stood, ready to produce whatever the stored blueprints described. This is just one cache, Rektar asked in amazement. The smallest one, Arya replied through their suit communicators. Each cache was designed to serve different purposes. This one focuses on biological and medical technologies. Others contain manufacturing systems, energy generation technology, communication arrays, and theoretical research into physics principles that your current scientists haven't yet discovered. Vostell was examining one of the manufacturing units. These fabrication systems are incredibly sophisticated. They could produce molecular-level medical devices, genetic therapies, even entire biological organisms, if properly programmed. Which brings us to the question of safety protocols, Arya said. Before you access any of this technology, you need to understand the potential consequences. Every device, every piece of knowledge, every technological breakthrough comes with risks that must be carefully considered. They spent hours touring the facility, with Arya explaining the purpose and potential applications of various stored technologies. The life extension treatments alone would revolutionize medicine across the galaxy, but Arya was careful to point out the social and economic disruptions such technology could cause if not introduced gradually and equitably. Imagine a galaxy where some species live for 1,000 years while others die naturally after 50, Arya said as they examined the genetic therapy storage units. The economic advantages of longevity, the accumulation of knowledge and resources over extended lifespans, the political power that would accrue to the long-lived, it could create a new form of species-based aristocracy. But surely the benefits outweigh the risks, Quinera argued. Think of all the suffering this technology could prevent, all the diseases it could cure. I agree that the benefits are enormous, Arya replied. But my crew learned the hard way that good intentions don't guarantee good outcomes. Every technology must be introduced with careful consideration of its broader effects. As they explored deeper into the cache, they discovered something unexpected, living quarters that appeared to have been recently occupied. The areas were clean, the air was fresh, and there were signs of ongoing habitation. Someone's been here, Zethkara said, his mandibles clicking nervously. Recently. That should be impossible. Arya's voice carried confusion. The cache's security systems should prevent unauthorized access. Their answer came in the form of a figure emerging from behind one of the storage units. It was tall, humanoid in basic structure, but clearly not human. Its skin had a metallic sheen, and its movements carried the fluid grace of a being equally comfortable in multiple gravitational environments. Actually, the figure said in perfect galactic standard, I've been waiting here for quite some time, hoping someone would eventually come to investigate this place. The crew immediately reached for their weapons, but the stranger made no threatening moves. Instead, it raised its hands in a gesture of peace and smiled, an expression that looked surprisingly natural on its alien features. My name is Kellyan, it said. I represent certain interested parties who have been monitoring activities in this region. We've been aware of this cache's existence for several decades. Ow! Arya's voice carried a note of alarm. The concealment systems should be undetectable. They are, to most current technology, Kellyan replied. But we have certain advantages. You see, we're not exactly from this time period either. The implications of this statement hit the crew like a physical blow. Another time traveler? Another survivor from the ancient past? I'm not from your era, Kellyan continued, seemingly reading their thoughts. I'm from approximately 200 years in the future. We've been monitoring the timeline, looking for pivotal moments where intervention might be necessary to prevent catastrophic outcomes. Time travel. Vostell's tentacles writhed with agitation. That's theoretical at best. No known species has developed functional temporal manipulation technology. No currently known species, Kellyan corrected. But remember, I'm from the future. From my perspective, time travel is well-established science, though heavily regulated to prevent temporal paradoxes. Arya's light pulsed rapidly, indicating high levels of processing activity. You claim to be from the future. Can you prove this claim? I can tell you that your decision to trust this salvage crew was the correct one, Kellyan replied. I can also tell you that the path you're currently on leads to a significantly improved outcome for galactic civilization, though not without considerable challenges along the way. What kind of challenges? Zethkara asked. The knowledge you're preparing to release will indeed trigger major changes in galactic society, Kellyan explained. Some beneficial, some disruptive. There will be conflicts as different species and organizations compete for access to the technology. Some will try to use it for military purposes. Others will attempt to monopolize it for economic advantage. So we shouldn't release it? Quinera's voice carried disappointment. Oh, you should definitely release it, Kellyanne said quickly. The alternative timelines where this knowledge remains hidden are far worse. But you'll need help navigating the political complexities that follow. The time traveler gestured toward the storage units around them. This cache contains more than just medical technology. Hidden in the deeper sections are the foundations for a new form of governance. Systems for managing technological distribution across multiple species, protocols for ensuring equitable access to advanced knowledge, frameworks for preventing the militarization of beneficial discoveries. Your crew foresaw these problems? Arya asked. They experienced them firsthand, Kellyanne replied. After the Kethmori disaster, they spent decades developing theoretical solutions to the challenge of technological distribution. They never had the chance to implement their ideas, but the groundwork is all here. As if to confirm Kellyanne's words, Arya's sensors detected previously hidden sections of the cache coming online. Storage areas that had been concealed even from the AI's knowledge revealed themselves, containing political and social technologies that complemented the physical sciences stored in the main sections. Why didn't you tell me about these sections? Arya asked Kellyanne. Because you needed to make the decision to trust your new allies first, the time traveler replied. The advanced governance systems can only be accessed by individuals who demonstrate the wisdom to use them responsibly. Your choice to work with this diverse crew, despite their lack of formal authority or resources, proved that you understand the importance of character over credentials. Rektar had been examining some of the newly revealed storage units. These systems are incredibly complex. It would take years to understand them fully, let alone implement them. Which is why you won't be working alone, Kellyanne said. There are others scattered across the galaxy, individuals and small groups who have been preparing for this moment. Scientists who've been developing complementary technologies, philosophers who've been wrestling with the ethical implications of rapid advancement. Even some government officials who understand the need for new approaches to technological management. A conspiracy? Vostell asked suspiciously. On network, Kellyanne corrected. People who independently recognize that the current galactic political structure isn't equipped to handle the kind of technological revolution that's coming. They've been developing pieces of the solution, waiting for the catalyst that would allow everything to come together. The time traveler produced a data crystal from somewhere in his clothing. This contains contact information for key individuals in the network, along with guidance on how to approach them and what technologies to share with whom. It also includes a timeline of recommended actions to minimize social disruption while maximizing beneficial outcomes. Zefkara accepted the crystal with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. You're asking us to become agents of historical change. I'm asking you to become what you already are, Kellyanne replied. Responsible individuals who care about the consequences of their actions. The difference is that now you'll have the resources and guidance to act on a galactic scale. As they prepared to leave the cache, loading their ship with carefully selected samples of the stored technologies, Arya posed one final question to the time traveler. In your timeline, do we succeed? Do we manage to share this knowledge without triggering another war? Kellyanne paused before answering. You succeed in avoiding the worst outcomes. The galaxy that results is more peaceful, more prosperous, and more equitable than the one you're leaving behind. But it's not perfect, and the path to get there isn't easy. You'll face opposition from those who benefit from the current system, betrayal from some you trust, and difficult choices that have no clear right answers. But it's worth it. Look around you. Kellyanne gestured to the cache surrounding them. This is just one small repository of knowledge that's been hidden for centuries because the galaxy wasn't ready for it. In my time, there are no hidden caches because there's no need for them. Knowledge flows freely, benefits are shared equitably, and conflicts are resolved through cooperation rather than force. Yes, it's worth it. As they departed the cache, leaving Kellyanne behind to continue his mysterious mission, the crew of the Krexnala found themselves carrying not just advanced technology, but hope for a better future. The challenges ahead would be enormous, but they were no longer facing them alone. The journey to Vostell's cousin's shipyard would give them time to study the data crystal and plan their next moves. But first, Arya needed repairs, and they needed to prepare for the moment when their secret would inevitably become public knowledge. The galaxy was about to change, and they would be the agents of that transformation. Kethmar Station hung in the void like a mechanical spider, its 8 construction arms extending into space where half-finished ships rested in various stages of completion. The station itself was a patchwork of different architectural styles, evidence of decades of expansion and modification as Vossner's operation had grown from a simple repair dock into one of the most sophisticated shipyards in the outer marches. Zefkera studied the approaching station through the Krexnala's viewport, noting the impressive array of defensive systems scattered throughout the construction zone. Automated weapons platforms, sensor nets, and what appeared to be cloaked patrol ships provided security that rivaled many military installations. "Your cousin runs quite an operation," he commented to Vostell. "The Tidal Reach clan has always been builders," Vostell replied, his tentacles unconsciously mimicking the pride patterns a species used when discussing family achievements. "But Vossner is special even among our people. They say he can repair anything that flies and improve anything that can be improved." Behind them, the Harmony's Edge followed at a discreet distance. Arya had insisted on hanging back until they received clearance from the station, explaining that sudden appearances by unknown vessels in the outer marches were often met with immediate weapons fire. Krexnala**, this is Kethmar Traffic Control, came a crackling transmission. "State your business, and prepare for identification scan." "This is Captain Zefkera requesting docking privileges and an audience with Vossner," Zefkera responded. "I'm accompanied by family, Vostell of the Deep Current Pod." There was a pause, followed by a different voice, deeper and carrying the authority of command. "Cousin, it's been too many cycles. What brings you to my little corner of chaos?" "A business proposition that could benefit us both," Vostell replied carefully. "But it requires discretion and advanced capabilities." "Intriguing. Dock at Bay 7. And that impressive vessel trailing behind, you can use Bay 12. I assume it's part of this mysterious business?" Zefkera and Vostell exchanged glances. Vossner had spotted the Harmony's Edge despite its attempt at concealment, demonstrating the quality of the station's sensor systems. "Affirmative. Zefkera replied. Bay 12 will be acceptable." As they docked, the crew was surprised by the station's internal atmosphere. Rather than the rough, utilitarian environment typical of Outer Marches facilities, Kethmar Station was clean, well-organized, and efficiently run. Crews of various species worked on projects throughout the visible areas, and the equipment was state-of-the-art despite the station's remote location. Vossner met them at the docking bay, and the family resemblance to Vostell was immediately apparent. Both were amphibian. Both had the characteristic tentacle arrangements of their species, but where Vostell was slight and scholarly, Vossner was broad and powerful, clearly adapted for physical labor. "Cousin," Vossner's translator rendered his greeting with warm affection. "You look well. Still salvaging the remnants of ancient wars." "Actually, that's exactly what brings us here," Vostell replied, "though what we've found is rather more significant than our usual discoveries." Vossner's attention shifted to Zefkera and the rest of the crew. "And you will be the captain of this mixed group. Interesting crew composition, not typical for salvagers." "We prefer diversity," Zefkera replied diplomatically. "Different perspectives lead to better problem solving." "Indeed. Now, about this business proposition that requires discretion and advanced capabilities. I assume it involves that remarkable ship you brought me?" "My initial scans suggest technology one don't recognize. It's quite old," Quinera said carefully. "Pre-hegemony. We're hoping you can help restore its systems." Vossner's interest sharpened visibly. "Pre-hegemony? That would make it extremely valuable. Follow me. We'll need a more private venue for this discussion." He led them through the station's corridors to a conference room overlooking the main construction floor. Through the transparent walls, they could see crews working on various projects. A sleek racing yacht for some wealthy client, a heavily modified cargo hauler with suspicious-looking hidden compartments, and what appeared to be a cutting-edge scientific research vessel. "I specialize in unique projects," Vossner explained, noticing their interest. "Rich clients with unusual requirements, researchers who need custom modifications, even the occasional government project that requires unofficial capabilities." "Perfect," Zefkera said, "because what we need is definitely unusual." Over the next hour, they carefully explained their situation. They revealed Arya's existence and nature, though they were vague about the specific technologies stored in the ship's databases. They emphasized the AI's loneliness and need for restoration, painting it as primarily a humanitarian mission. Vossner listened intently, occasionally asking technical questions that demonstrated his deep understanding of ship systems and AI architecture. When they finished their explanation, he was quiet for several minutes, processing what he'd heard. An AI consciousness that survived for over 8 centuries, he said finally. The psychological implications alone are fascinating. But the technical challenges of restoration will be enormous. Systems that old will require complete replacement of some components, careful preservation of others, and integration protocols that bridge centuries of technological development. Can you do it? Vostell asked. I believe so, Fusnor replied slowly. But it will take time, resources, and absolute secrecy. The kind of technology you're describing would attract unwanted attention from every major power in the galaxy. What kind of timeline are we looking at? Zethkara asked. 6 months minimum, possibly a full year depending on what we find when we begin detailed analysis. My teams are excellent, but this will be unlike anything they've ever attempted. They spent the rest of the day touring the station and meeting with Vossner's senior technical staff. The expertise available was indeed impressive. Specialists in quantum computing, exotic materials science, AI psychology, and even theoretical xenoarchaeology. If anyone in the galaxy could successfully restore Arya, it was this team. That evening, as they prepared to introduce Arya to the station's personnel, Zethkara received an encrypted message on his personal communicator. The sender was listed as Network Contact Alpha, clearly a reference to Kellyan's data crystal. The message was brief. Political situation becoming unstable. Hegemony Council investigating rumors of pre-war technology discoveries. Suggest accelerating timeline. Super en route. Trouble? Quinera asked, noticing his expression. Possibly, Zethkara replied, showing her the message. It seems word about pre-war discoveries is already spreading. How is that possible? Vostell asked. We've been careful about secrecy. Information has a way of leaking. Arya's voice came through the communicator. The AI had been monitoring their conversation from the Harmony's edge. And there are always those who monitor salvage operations in the forgotten sectors, hoping to identify valuable discoveries. Could someone have tracked us? Rektar asked nervously. It's possible, Arya replied. My ship's energy signature is unique. If someone was specifically looking for human technology, they might have detected our passage. The implications were troubling. If the Hegemony Council was already investigating, their window of opportunity might be much shorter than anticipated. We need to accelerate the restoration process, Zethkara decided. How quickly can you begin work, Vossner? My teams can start immediately, the station master replied. But rushing will increase the risk of damaging irreplaceable components. And proceeding slowly increases the risk of outside interference, Arya pointed out. I would prefer to take the chance with technical complications rather than political ones. They spent the night developing a crash program for Arya's restoration. Vossner's teams would work around the clock, focusing first on stabilizing the AI's core systems and backing up its memory banks. Once those were secure, they could proceed with upgrading the ship's other systems. The work began at dawn the following day. Teams of technicians swarmed over the Harmony's edge, marveling at its advanced design while carefully mapping its systems. Arya cooperated fully, providing technical specifications and guidance while maintaining strict control over access to its most sensitive databases. The crew of the Krexnala found themselves serving as liaisons between the ancient AI and the modern technicians. The cultural and technological gaps were sometimes enormous, requiring creative translation of concepts that had no modern equivalents. The neural interface design is fascinating, reported Dr. Kessera, Vossner's chief AI specialist. It's far more sophisticated than anything in current use, with multiple redundant consciousness pathways and what appears to be emotional processing capabilities that rival those of biological beings. Arya is definitely more than a simple artificial intelligence, Zethkara confirmed. It has genuine personality, emotions, and what certainly appears to be consciousness, which raises interesting legal questions, Dr. Kessera pointed out. If this being is truly conscious, it has rights under Galactic sentient being protection laws. We're not just restoring a ship, we're performing medical treatment on a patient. This perspective added a new dimension to their work. Arya wasn't just a repository of ancient technology. It was a person who had endured centuries of isolation and deserved to be treated with dignity and respect. As the restoration work progressed, they began receiving concerning reports from Kellyan's network contacts. Hegemony patrol ships were increasing their presence in the outer marches. Several salvage operations had been boarded and searched without explanation. Most ominously, a research team investigating pre-war archaeological sites had disappeared entirely. "They're definitely looking for something," Quinera observed as they reviewed the intelligence reports. "And they're not being subtle about it. The question is whether they're looking for us specifically or just investigating rumors in general," Zethkera replied. Their answer came sooner than expected. On the third day of restoration work, Kethmar Station's long-range sensors detected a fleet of ships approaching from the Hegemony core systems. The composition was ominous: 3 heavy cruisers, 2 battleships, and what appeared to be a command carrier. "That's a full battle fleet," Vossner said grimly as they studied the sensor readings. "They're not here for a routine inspection." "How long until they arrive?" Zethkera asked. 18 hours at their current speed. "Can Aria be moved in its current condition?" "Absolutely not," Dr. Kesera replied firmly. "We have the core systems partially dismantled for upgrades. Moving the ship now would almost certainly cause irreparable damage to the AI's consciousness matrix. Then, we defend the station," Vossner said with calm determination. "Against a battle fleet?" Vostel's tentacles writhed with anxiety. "Cousin, your defensive systems are impressive, but they're not designed to handle that level of firepower." "Perhaps not," Vossner agreed. "But we have advantages they don't expect." Over the following hours, Kethmar Station transformed from a peaceful shipyard into a fortress. Hidden weapons systems emerged from concealment, revealing defensive capabilities that far exceeded what anyone had suspected. Automated manufacturing systems began producing specialized munitions. Most surprisingly, several of the civilian ships under construction revealed themselves to be heavily armed vessels designed for Vossner's private defense fleet. "You've been planning for something like this," Zethkera observed. "The outer marches are dangerous territory," Vossner replied. "Anyone who operates successfully out here learns to prepare for military-level threats." But even as they prepared their defenses, everyone understood that they were badly outmatched. A battle fleet represented overwhelming force that no civilian station could hope to defeat. It was Arya who proposed the solution. "There is another option," the AI said during a strategy meeting. "I can provide you with technologies from my databases that would significantly enhance your defensive capabilities. Energy shield generators that could withstand battleship fire, weapons systems that could penetrate any known armor, manufacturing templates for automated defense platforms." But revealing those technologies would expose exactly what the hegemony is looking for, Quinera pointed out. "Not reveal, demonstrate," Arya corrected. "If they see that we possess overwhelming defensive capabilities, they may choose to negotiate rather than attack. Or they may call for reinforcements and try to overwhelm us with numbers," Rektar added pessimistically. "Then, we'll have bought time for word to spread through Kellyan's network," Zethkera decided, "and time for allies to rally to our cause." The next hours were a frenzy of activity as Arya's advanced technologies were rapidly manufactured and deployed. Kethmar Station's defensive capabilities grew exponentially, transforming it from a vulnerable civilian target into something that might actually survive an encounter with a battle fleet. But as the hegemony ships dropped out of hyperspace and took up attack positions, everyone understood that they were about to face their greatest test. The decisions made in the next few hours would determine not just their own survival, but the future of galactic civilization. The ancient knowledge that had waited centuries for the right moment to emerge was about to be thrust into the harsh light of contemporary politics, whether they were ready or not. Admiral Thex Nora of the Hegemony Fleet stared at the tactical displays with growing confusion. The intelligence reports had described Kethmar Station as a typical outer marches facility, lightly defended, primarily civilian, operated by smugglers and criminals who would surrender at the first sign of serious military force. Instead, her sensors were detecting defensive capabilities that rivaled those of a major military installation. "Confirm those readings," she ordered her tactical officer. "Readings confirmed, Admiral," came the reply. "The station is projecting energy shields that register at least Class 7 intensity. We're detecting automated weapons platforms with power signatures that exceed our own main batteries. There are also at least 12 vessels of unknown configuration that appear to be heavily armed." "This makes no sense," Admiral Thex Nora muttered. How does a criminal shipyard acquire military-grade defensive systems? On Kethmar Station, Zethkara watched the hegemony fleet take up attack positions while trying to control his nervousness. Around him, the command center buzzed with activity as Vosner's teams coordinated their defenses using technology that had been theoretical just days ago. "They're scanning us intensively," reported the sensor operator. "But our new shielding is masking the specific nature of our defensive systems." "Good," Vosner said calmly. "Let them wonder what they're facing." "Arya, are you ready to implement the communication protocol we discussed?" "Ready." Arya's voice came through the station's comm system, broadcasting now on all standard hegemony frequencies. What followed was unlike any first contact scenario in galactic history. Instead of threats or demands for surrender, the hegemony fleet received a data transmission that included detailed technical specifications for the defensive systems protecting the station. The message was clear: "We have capabilities you don't understand, and we're willing to share the information rather than fight about it." Admiral Thexnora studied the transmitted data with growing amazement. The shield generators alone represented advances that her species scientists had been trying to develop for decades. The weapons systems were even more impressive, designs that combined principles her people barely understood with practical applications that could revolutionize space combat. "Admiral," her communications officer announced, "the station is requesting permission to send a small delegation to discuss mutual cooperation." "Cooperation?" Admiral Thexnora's mandibles clicked with confusion. "They're criminals hiding in the outer marches." "Actually," came a new voice over the communication channel, "we're scientists and engineers who've been waiting a very long time to share some important discoveries." Arya had joined the communication directly, its synthesized voice carrying across space with perfect clarity. "Admiral Thexnora, I know the situation is unusual, but I assure you that we represent no threat to hegemony security. Quite the opposite, in fact. Who are you to make such claims? I'm an artificial intelligence that has been preserving scientific knowledge for over 800 years, waiting for galactic civilization to reach a point where it could benefit from that knowledge responsibly. I believe that time has finally come." The admission that they were dealing with an ancient AI sent shock waves through the hegemony fleet. AIs of such sophistication were theoretical constructs, and ones with centuries of operational history were beyond anything in their experience. "Prove your claims," Admiral Thexnora demanded. What followed was a demonstration that would be talked about in military academies for generations. Arya activated one of the newly installed weapons systems and fired a precisely controlled beam at an empty section of space. The beam, instead of dissipating harmlessly, opened what appeared to be a temporary rift in space-time itself. "Spatial manipulation technology," Arya explained calmly. "One of many discoveries my original crew made during their exploration missions. This particular application could revolutionize interstellar travel, making faster-than-light communication instantaneous across any distance." Admiral Thexnora realized that she was facing something far beyond her authority to handle. This wasn't a military situation. It was a potential turning point in galactic history. "I need to contact the Hegemony Council immediately," she announced. "Of course," Arya replied. "While you're doing that, perhaps your science officers would be interested in reviewing some of our other discoveries." Over the following hours, a strange sort of informal conference developed in the space around Kethmar Station. The Hegemony fleet maintained its defensive positions, but its science officers were in constant communication with Arya and the station's technical teams, reviewing technologies that challenged their understanding of physics itself. Meanwhile, more ships were arriving. Not hegemony reinforcements, as many had feared, but vessels from across the galaxy, representatives of various species and organizations who had received word through Kellyan's network that something extraordinary was happening in the outer marches. Dr. Sarah Velthera of the Galactic Science Consortium arrived aboard a research vessel equipped with the most advanced analytical equipment available. Her initial skepticism turned to wonder as she reviewed Arya's technical demonstrations. The quantum mechanics alone represent advances of several centuries beyond our current understanding, she reported to her colleagues via subspace communication. If these technologies can be replicated and distributed safely, the benefits to galactic civilization would be immeasurable. Captain Zexthor of the Independent Traders Alliance brought a different perspective. "The economic implications are staggering," he observed. "If energy generation becomes essentially free, if faster-than-light communication becomes instantaneous, if life extension treatments become widely available, the entire galactic economy would need to be restructured. It was exactly the kind of complex, multifaceted challenge that Arya's crew had tried to prepare for centuries earlier. But now, instead of a single species trying to handle the implications alone, representatives of the entire galactic community were working together to understand the possibilities and risks. The breakthrough came when Dr. Velthara proposed a solution that drew on both Arya's historical knowledge and contemporary political realities. "We need a new institution," she announced during one of the impromptu conferences that had developed between the various ships. "Something that can oversee the gradual introduction of these technologies while ensuring equitable access and preventing militarization." The Hegemony Council already serves that function, Admiral Thexnora pointed out. "With respect, Admiral," Dr. Velthara replied, "the Hegemony Council is a political organization focused on maintaining current power structures. What we need is something focused on scientific and ethical considerations." Arya had been monitoring these discussions with growing interest. "My crew actually developed theoretical frameworks for exactly this type of situation," it announced. "Governance models designed specifically for managing rapid technological advancement across multiple species." "You have governmental technology?" Captain Zexthor asked in amazement. "Social technologies," Arya corrected. "Systems for ensuring that the benefits of scientific advancement are distributed fairly, that new technologies are tested thoroughly before release, and that the introduction of change happens at a pace that allows societies to adapt." Over the following days, as more representatives arrived and the informal conference grew into something approaching a galactic summit, the outlines of a solution began to emerge. The Hegemony Council would maintain its role as the primary governmental body, but a new scientific development authority would be established to oversee the introduction of advanced technologies. This new authority would be jointly staffed by representatives from all major species, with Arya serving as a senior advisor. The ancient AI's knowledge of both advanced technology and the historical consequences of rapid change made it uniquely qualified for such a role. But even as agreements were being reached, challenges remained. Several hegemony hardliners argued that such powerful technologies should remain under their exclusive control. Some species representatives worried that their civilizations would be left behind if they couldn't adapt quickly enough to the changes. The resolution came from an unexpected source. Kellyan reappeared, materializing in the conference area with the casual confidence of someone who understood temporal mechanics. "The timeline is stabilized," he announced. "The decisions being made here lead to the positive future I described. But there's one more element that needs to be implemented." "What kind of element?" "Admiral,"